wanted to take a minute to answer your question in a way that would be a little bit easier than just typing it out. So your question was, when is it advised to aerate a lawn or dethatch, and what scenarios would you opt for either of those two? So I'm going to use this little whiteboard here and kind of explain the difference between the two and why you would use them. So aeration is used for, it's going to drive me crazy. Aeration is used for when you have compact soil. So like if you have a dog that stays in the yard a lot, or kids that play in the yard, or even just like lawn mowing will compact the soil. Especially if you have an area where you drive on the ground a lot, or even sometimes just the soil there is clay soil and it's compacted just by its own nature. And so what that will look like a lot of times is your grass will be green, but it won't grow. Or it'll be just kind of lumpy looking as you look out across the yard. And it's especially easy to tell. It's hard to tell when it's winter time, especially the end of winter, because the grass is all kind of smashed down anyways. But so aeration, it's a good time to do that is in the spring once the ground comes out of dormancy, or the grass comes out of dormancy. Starts to green up. That's a good time to do it, and you can do it all summer long. Really, I wouldn't do it as you get closer to fall, but at Willis Lawn Services, we'll be doing aerations. I think with our first round of fertilizers, so starting in mid-April, if I remember right. But anyway, that's what aeration is for. It also can actually help with thatch. If you have a lot of thatch, it can puncture. It'll poke a hole through the thatch, cut it out, and then it throws up these cores on top. Which I wish I had a way to show you a picture. I have some good pictures of that. I'll post a picture in the comment. But so it can help with thatch a little bit, but it's especially there for compaction, water penetration down into the soil. Because what aeration does is it actually digs a little hole in the ground and throws the dirt back up on the surface. So you have a bunch of little holes, thousands of holes in your yard. The way it works to reduce compaction is I'm going to draw on here. So pretend we're zoomed in here really, really close. Like from here to here is like 4 inches. Okay, so we're zoomed in really, really close. Whenever you run an aerator over your yard, it has a tine, and the tine is usually about a half inch wide and 6 to 8 inches long. What it does is it pokes a hole down into the ground, 3 to 4 inches deep, depending on the quality of aerator you've got. And I say it pokes a hole, but what it really does is it's kind of like a cookie cutter. So the bottom of this tine is actually hollow, and when this thing goes into the ground, when it comes back up, it pulls the dirt up out of the ground, and then it throws it back up here on the ground in the form of a plug. And I'll post a picture so that you can see what that looks like, because it looks kind of weird whenever you see it done. But anyways, so whenever it's done, you got all the plugs up on the ground level, but what you're left with is a hole in the ground, that's 3 or 4 inches deep, again, depending on the quality of service that you're getting. And your grass is up here, and you'll have, thousands of these holes. Again, remember, we're talking about, this is like 4 inches right here, so we're really zoomed in. And what it does is, say there's another one over here, when you make this hole in the ground, it causes the soil around it to kind of crack, and eventually it kind of caves back in on itself. This soil just kind of falls down into here, but whenever that soil falls down into this hole, you've had these cracks open up in the soil that you can't really see them the same that you can see this, but and you've got that happening between all of these holes. And so now you have all of this upper 3 to 4 inches of ground has more air in it, because you literally have created pockets of air by allowing these holes. These holes allow the soil around it to kind of cave into it. So it makes air in the soil like that. So that's what aeration does. Now, I talk about Dethatching. So dethatching isn't a super common need here in Oklahoma on Bermuda grass lawns. If you have a really highly fertilized lawn, like a golf course, highly fertilized, highly irrigated, then you can have some problems with thatch. But 99% of the time, homeowners don't deal with thatch too much. But what thatch is, I'll just use this same image here. That's a generous statement. This is the same drawing. Thatch is where you've got your grass that's growing up here. Bermuda grass, as you probably know, spreads itself, so it's got these little runners that go across the ground. Thatch is made up of where you get like a whole bunch of those over the course of time, and it's just like a really thick layer right in here where it's like it gets really spongy. And it just prevents the crown of the grass down here on the bottom close to the soil. It prevents air from getting down here very well, and it just creates a spongy feel. Uh-oh. So anyways, where that one cut off, Bermuda grass, as you know, has, or may know, it has runners, stolons and rhizomes all along this upper layer of soil and at the base of the plant. And what happens is over time, if it's heavily fertilized and heavily watered, these runners might die and become inactive. But if you're adding to the grass faster than these old dead runners along the bottom here, if your grass is growing faster than those things can deteriorate and decay and decompose, then what happens is you get this layer of thatch buildup, and it can be a half an inch, an inch, or even 2 inches. And this is like it'll become a really spongy layer as you walk across the grass. And so what dethatching does is it's a machine that has a whole bunch of little blades that spin around like this way. So like a typical mower, the blade is going to spin like this, right? I don't know if this is hard to tell. It's spinning horizontally. A dethatcher is going to spin like this. This is very hard to tell what I'm doing, and what it does is it goes down like this, and it cuts into the thatch, and actually, as the blade goes down, it actually will pull the thatch up and throw it up here onto the surface. So you have a bunch of clippings up here or thatch up there that you have to get rid of. So that's what dethatching does. Most of the time, it's not something that's needed in Oklahoma on a typical homeowner yard. But on a golf course where you're trying to get the grass to grow, or where you're having to mow it every single day, you can definitely have thatch build up. So most people can benefit from aeration. Most people will not benefit from dethatching. So I hope that was helpful for you. Let me know if you have any other questions.